Well, to talk more about China's diplomatic ambitions in the region, we're joined by Tommy Steiner, Policy Director at Signal, and Dr. Howard Stoffer is a professor at the University of New Haven in the United States. Good evening to you both. Tommy Steiner, solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is, of course, the holy grail of foreign policymakers. It's eluded numerous American presidents. Is it time to let China have a go?
Well, first of all, I don't think that China is really serious in its desire to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because it only knows too well that there are very slim chances of any breakthrough. It is using the Israeli-Palestinian issue to further establish itself in the Middle East. That's a different story.
Dr. Howard Stoffer, what is your take on China's efforts to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
I think this is just another visit. Abbas has been there 4 other times. Other, PLO leaders have been to China many years in the past. China now is trying to establish a role in the Middle East. It's not replacing the United States, although it would like to. Wants to be seen as a world leader, wants to be seen as an important peacemaker in the region with Iran and Saudi Arabia reestablishing ties. China is now building new schools and hospitals in Iraq to replace the war debris from the American invasion years ago. And China is, extending the Road and Belt Initiative to say developmental peace is its new policy. And that's a better policy than the American promotion of democracy, because the Chinese are basically talking to autocratic leaders and saying, you're like us, and we're going to help you.
Well, quite, and there's an element of certainty as well, isn't there? If you see it from the point of view of the Gulf monarchies, I mean, Mohammed bin Salman and President Xi are going to be around a lot longer than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You can see, can't you, that the Gulf states might prefer to work with more predictable allies. Tommy?
Well, I'm not sure that is entirely the case. I think the Saudis and the Emiratis know well that when it comes to security and defense issues, hard security and hard defense issues, at the end of the day, their most reliable partner is the United States and not the Chinese. Having said that, China can play a useful role for the Saudi or Emirati or Gulf interests in certain circumstances, including that of playing off against the United States or trying to negotiate or posture vis-a-vis the United States. And by the way, should I remind us all, this is not the first time it is happening. The Iranian Shah in the 1960s used to do that with the Soviet Union vis-a-vis the United States. There's nothing new here in that respect.
Howard Stoffer, all right, Howard Stoffer, can the US do anything about the rise of Chinese diplomatic power in the region?
Well, we shouldn't forget, that there are American military bases in Qatar. There's a base in Bahrain. We have a base actually in Syria. We have a military and intelligence relationship with Israel, the most powerful regional player in the Middle East. And of course, the Secretary of State of the United States, Blinken, is now in Saudi Arabia to try to shore up American ties to Saudi Arabia. And I agree with my colleague that, only America has the most advanced military equipment in the world and is prepared to sell it to the Gulf countries, to Saudi Arabia. And they know that their security depends on a good relationship and continuing relationship with the United States. And whatever you might say about Biden or Trump, the United States president will be around, and there will be a presidency well into the 21st century and beyond.
Tommy Steiner, do you agree with that? I mean, the Chinese can't compete with the Americans militarily, can they? There are dozens of US military bases across the region, but a Chinese relationship might look different. It might be more about trade and commerce.
There's no doubt that the Chinese approach the Middle East in a very different manner than the United States. The whole, playbook that the Chinese use is different. And I'm not sure that the Saudis and Emiratis, for that matter, really appreciate and understand how they might get entangled in this Chinese web, if you wish. Yes, the Chinese play differently, but what the Chinese are trying to do is to promote their vision, their view of how the world should be ordered. They've been promoting the Global Security Initiative, even under the guise of the Saudi-Iranian deal, also in the Palestinian context. And look, they're trying to change the rules of the game also in the Israeli-Palestinian issue. It's not, this proposal is nothing new there. And they also want to have an international peace conference under the auspices of the United Nations Security Council and the 5 permanent members. Hey, and just by coincidence, it also includes China. So, and they're trying to propel themselves into that position. Again, there's nothing new here. And yes, the Chinese have succeeded to make certain achievements in the past few months. There's far more Chinese presence. In Riyadh these days is the China-Arab Business Summit, and most of the Chinese large enterprises are present, are there.
Tommy Steiner and Dr. Howard Stoffer, thank you very much indeed to you both.
Thank you.
Time for a short break. When we come back, more Middle East diplomacy, this time between Israel and its partners in the Abraham Accords. But is the next round of the Negev Summit going to happen this year in Morocco as planned? We'll go to Rabat for the latest. Stay with us.